Thank you. I just wanted to start with a brief overview, and I'll talk a little bit about our overall programs, and then I'm going to drill a little bit deeper into our training programs and our incubator farm program and our technical assistance program. So I'm going to fly through those at the beginning, but then I'll go back and drill down into them. And I'm hoping that if people have questions, we can do it as we go. I'll try to get through all the slides, but if there's something burning that you can't wait till the end, just flag me down so we can answer questions. But basically, New Entry's mission is to assist people with limited resources to begin small-scale commercial agriculture in Massachusetts, and then because New England is a pretty small area, we do work with folks from other states as well. And our goals are also very broad, but we really want to support the region's agriculture, build economic self-reliance and food security among participants in their communities, especially folks to have access to culturally appropriate foods. Local production. We're a partnership project of both Tufts University's nutrition school. It's the only graduate school of nutrition in the country, and they have a graduate degree program called Agriculture, Food, and the Environment. And we're also part of another community action agency in Lowell called Community Teamwork, Inc. So they do a lot of social service work in many different areas. So we have funding that goes through both institutions. We also have a lot of regional collaborators and partners, national partners. As I mentioned, we were founded in 1998. And our original focus for the first many years was exclusively working with immigrants and refugees. And just a caveat that it changed about 4 or 5 years ago when the whole locavore food movement started expanding. We had a lot of people come knocking on our door saying, we want the kind of information that you're offering. You're doing business planning and training and field workshops, you have incubator farms, and our extension program in Massachusetts is, like many extension programs, perhaps been pretty decimated, and so they don't really do a lot of this kind of work, and at the time they really weren't at all interested in working with beginning farmers, so they were referring people to us anyway. So we redid our strategic planning process and decided that, asked a lot of our existing farmers, is it okay if we open our doors to anyone who wants to learn to farm? And everybody thought that was a great idea. So it has radically shifted our entire curriculum and programming over time to make space for everyone at the table who wants to learn how to farm. So we've actually kind of gone a little bit in the other direction, and now we're going to be swinging it back to make sure that there is a strong diversity in our programming. So our goal really is to incubate culturally diverse agripreneurs and get everybody communicating together in the agricultural system. So the people that we work with, diverse range from age. We have a at-risk teen group that farms on our training farms. They do job development and youth leadership. We have folks that are retirees, elderly folks. One of our Cambodian families, his sons and daughters made them retire and sent them out here to Long Beach to retire. Now they're back. So a lot of different nationalities. We work with folks. We started mostly working with Hmong and Cambodian farmers, and then a couple years later it started changing to a lot of African refugees as well, from mostly Liberia, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, Burundi, places like that. We have a good mix of male and female, although with our Anglo population it's becoming more female. And we have a interesting range now of financial capacity. Still, we do mostly prioritize folks with limited resources, but with some of the Anglo folks coming in who are in their second careers, bring a lot more resources to that. And I'll talk about how we structure our fees to make up for that. So some of our partners, again in New England, many of you are here, obviously, that we work with. Many years ago when we first started, we had a more formalized Northeast network of immigrant farming projects, and we're hoping to bring that back with Cultivating Community and their VFRDP grant this year. But even just in our state of Massachusetts, there's a lot of projects going on. There's ourselves, Nuestros Raíces, who works with Puerto Rican groups, the Flats Mentor Farm, who kind of spun off and now works solely with the Hmong population that we started out working with. The Mass Office of Refugees and Immigrants for a while had some work going on. There's the GROW folks, they're in Boston working with all the mutual assistance associations and community garden work. You have Lutheran Social Services, the Food Project is doing work with refugees, so there's a ton. We are a very small state and a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and then not to mention our partners in other surrounding states. So our objectives really are to help remove the barriers to entry, like many of you, to get people into farming. We provide training, education, land access, access to loans and capital, marketing, give them farming experience. And one of our other goals is to really try to reduce farmer isolation by building a network in the community of people who are involved in our program. One of the great things that we have going for us in Eastern Massachusetts is a lot of the farms in the area are very close together. So we're part of the Collaborative Regional Alliance for Farmer Training, or CRAFT program. I don't know if a lot of you guys have that in your area. But basically it's a very grassroots farmer-led group where every other week during the growing season we do field visits to farms throughout the region. And we get together in the winter and do a planning session, and then develop the topics, like say people want to learn about goat dairy. So we try to schedule a farm visit to a goat dairy, and then how do you pick your equipment? Somebody will do a workshop on that. And it's just whoever shows up on Wednesday afternoon at that farm, they do a farm tour and a discussion. So we have that really good networking going on in our state. And we also want to keep farmland in active production. In Eastern Massachusetts, we're a very urbanizing community. There's been a lot of development, so what little farmland there is left, it's important to keep it by having new farmers be able to know what they're doing to be able to make use of it. So I just wanted to get a sense from all of you. I know that we've been together for a day, but how many folks here work exclusively with pre-literate or extremely limited literacy audiences? Okay. How about mixed learning levels? Some people fluent English and some, okay, a little more. Great. And then how many people here currently teach their own farm business planning course with your own staff? Okay. So I know some people contract that out to Extension or other folks. Okay. So I just wanted, just so I can address things as I'm talking, I just wanted to take a couple minutes, if you guys can talk at your table, to talk about what your biggest challenges are about teaching specifically business planning to your clients. So a couple minutes, and then we'll just do some shout outs, and I'll write them over here.
This thing is, people have a language barrier, so they can be able to speak whatever they feel they like. Almost they have the intensity to speak, but you know, the way they speak out to the people, and they have kind of difficulty in expressing their feelings in some different aspects. So the language barrier is one, and another. Besides that, we have been giving ESL classes to fluent communication among the people, to share their views, ideas.
Great. All right, I'm going to keep going. How about over here? Biggest challenge?
We're not grantees, and we actually don't have this situation.
Okay. All right. Great. That's okay. How about you guys? Biggest challenge in business planning?
I think we had two major ones: record keeping and just the concept of planning. That's a very different construct for most of our clients.
That's a ditto over here. Great. Great. You guys?
I think that last one was our main challenge. It's just that the idea of just spending the winter planning your sales, breaking them down, doesn't always make sense to people why you would do that. It's not how they approach farming. So there's a big cultural shift in how to think about farming to do a business plan.
Okay.
Taking the steps now to get to a point in the future, like enacting the plan now, so that you'll be at a different point in a year or four.
Great. Okay. Anybody else? New ideas? Yeah?
Our group talked about all the language barriers, staff capacity, and also one thing we talked about was trust, working with the local growers and farmers to have trust with the public institute.
Anyone else? You guys?
We talked about this initiative.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, thank you. That was very helpful. Hopefully I'll talk about some of those things as I go through, and if I don't, we'll come back and can ask some more questions about that toward the end. So I'm going to give a brief overview, as I said, of our programs, and then we'll drill down into our approach to business planning and training and technical assistance. But This is our laundry list of things that we do. In general, obviously we have to do outreach and recruitment to get people to understand what our program is all about and our expectations for them. And I know we had a lot of discussions about that yesterday, about intake and outreach and assessment, and making sure that people are really clear what they're signing on for when they join your program in the first place. And then we do all of our farmer training programs, which I'll go into more detail about. The ones highlighted in green are where I'll spend a lot more time. Our technical assistance incubator farms, land matching, marketing, and all the other good stuff. So with outreach and recruitment, we talked a lot yesterday about different strategies that people use. We use them all as well. It's a lot of word of mouth. We go to the table at a lot of events and conferences. We meet with people. And with our change in audience, it's very easy now to send out an email blast to all the various ag and farm and food-related listservs and fill up the classroom pretty easily. So in order to really reach our target audience, we need to be going and working with social service providers, going to the community-based groups and things like that, and making sure people have the information they need to sign up. And then we do our training courses, and I'll explain later when I get more in detail with this. We do have a series of steps, sort of hurdles that people have to go through to filter them into our program. So we want to make sure it's a good fit for people. We also want to have the ability to refer people to other programs, since we do have a diversity of things going on in our state. If they're not a good fit for us, we want to make sure that they're connected somewhere else. And then as part of our overall training, we do a lot of practical skills trainings, and these are open to the public, so anyone can come to any hands-on workshop that we offer throughout the year. They don't have to be kind of filtering through our main program to do that. Part of our other sort of ad hoc offerings that we do as part of our training are our livestock field schools, and we've been finding that as more people are looking to get into agriculture, we have been very much exclusively vegetable-based program, and we still are on our training farms, except this year we did do poultry as a pilot project. But because we're affiliated with Tufts and they also have the only vet school in New England, it was a natural partnership to get some funding to partner with them, because they're a teaching institution, they're teaching veterinary students, they have a working 400-acre farm which has production animals on it, so, and they have obviously very qualified staff and instructors, so it made sense to work with them. And for the last 3 years we've been doing a lot of livestock trainings on sheep and pigs and beef cattle and swine, well I already said pigs, poultry, sheep, some goats, pasture management, fencing, grazing, meat processing and marketing, the whole range of things, and then offering follow-up technical assistance. One of the other projects related to livestock that we've been very involved in, both myself as a producer, but as we're getting people into poultry, we don't have any poultry processing facilities in Massachusetts where someone can take their birds and legally sell them. And up until July of last year, we didn't have any in New England. So now we do have a new USDA processing plant, but we started the poultry processing project back in 2006 or 2007. There was nothing going on at that time. So we had to both create the infrastructure, which is the trailer here, and now we have an enclosed unit as well, and the regulatory process. And that was quite a hurdle to get all 3 state regulatory agencies together to talk for the first time and figure out a protocol for licensing producers to be able to do on-farm processing and sales. And the reason for that, I don't know if any of you have looked at these nice ERS maps that USDA put together. Even across the country, there are less than 100 poultry processing facilities. I mean, we know that it's vertically integrated and big companies own it all, but you can see where production is in blue, and processing facilities, we really don't have any up in our area of the woods. And so basically it's a do-it-yourself model. People get training and then they rent the unit, bring it to their farms, and do their own birds. So they have to get licensed as well. This is the new enclosed unit that we got funded and online last year. That new entry used for our pilot poultry project, where we trained our farmers on our training sites to raise and process and sell meat birds. We also have our incubator farms, which I'll go through later on. And then we do a lot of technical assistance, and I'll kind of explain how that program interlinks with both the business planning and the incubator farm work that we do. We also have a farmland matching service program, and we started that mostly to exclusively serve our farmers who are incubating from our sites and needed to transition to their own land. And that is also expanded to more of a statewide program where anyone can go online and fill out our application and be entered into our database for land matching services. So they have an application process. We're really farm seeker driven in that respect. So there are other organizations like Land for Good in our region that really focus on the landowner aspect. And it's a very different approach conceptually. If we're looking for a particular farmer to find land that meets their enterprise needs, it's different than working with 25 landowners who have beautiful properties and they want to find a farmer. So we're not worried about finding those landowners, their perfect farmer. We're worried about finding our farmers their perfect land. So that's the motivation for us. But in order to even have a land bank, look for land for them to do, we have to kind of find it and do all of that outreach. And then really, I like to always say it's where eBay meets eHarmony. The matching program is like there's a market out there for land, but then there's the relationship side of things that takes the most time. And in our experience for doing this the last many years, we averaged that, we tried to quantify, and it takes about 40 to 50 hours per land match to find a farmer a suitable site, with site visits and getting the two people together, evaluating the property, talking about lease terms. And so we do all of that. We're starting now to more focus. We've kind of exhausted our public land areas in the regions that our farmers are closely looking in around our program areas, because they don't want to drive that far to their land. They're not going to live on the farm. And in Eastern Mass, in communities that have preserved land, no one can afford to live there with housing. So that's kind of a concern. So we've even started going deeper into a specialized GIS type study, looking at small parcels of 2 acres or more on prime farmland soils, and basically backyard farming in people's large yards. And then we do lease advising. We are not attorneys. We don't claim to be. We encourage people to talk to their own attorneys, but just at least giving them some parameters of what should be involved in their lease agreements. And then we run our marketing cooperative, but it's actually a collaborative. We're not a legally incorporated cooperative, and I'm going to talk in this afternoon's session in more detail about that. But really our goal is to support our farmers coming through the program with a ready market. So we aggregate people's products and sell through a multi-producer CSA. And so I'll talk more about that and how our evolution of that whole program happened in this afternoon's session. And then this is just sort of an intern project. We do an annual farm employment directory, and as I mentioned before, it's one of our ways to refer people out. So if they're not ready to start their own farm business as a business, we just basically do a survey of farms in the state and the region who want to hire farm labor or farm workers or offer apprenticeships or internships, and they post themselves for free in this directory, and we send it out to career services, and we can hand it to a farmer saying, if you're not ready to invest and start up your own business, go get a job on a farm, see what it's all about. If you think this is for you, come back and talk to us. So that's why we do this project. And we also do it because there is a farm labor shortage going around, as we all know, and issues of immigration and the H-2A program changes that are happening in our area. It's a big concern because high school kids these days don't really cut it. So people are looking for reliable workers as well. We also, these are also intern projects. We hire a lot of student interns from Tufts. That's how we get a lot of this stuff done. But we do have all of these plain language resource guides that are on our website and available on a lot of different topics that we found are just really helpful, that either you all as service providers could use with your clients, or for folks with more limited English reading capability could use on their own. So they're supposed to be very straightforward, sort of a translation of post-college graduate degree level documents into something more accessible for folks. And then one of the other things that we're working on locally is just trying to kind of circle back around. I know I love these folks, going back into our local community of Lowell. We've spent a lot of time working right outside of Lowell, which is a very ethnically diverse community, but haven't really focused on the Lowell food system in particular, because we've been very focused on farmer training. And this year we're starting with a lot of other programs in the area, projects and organizations doing a Lowell community food assessment to try to figure out how do we get healthier food into the Lowell area community. Because we have a lot of farmers from Lowell that are growing great food, and with our marketing cooperative, we're exporting it all out to wealthy consumers in greater Boston. So we're kind of circling back around, looking at how do we really get that food in the hands of people who really, really need it. And then one other thing we are also working on with our Beginning Farmer Grant. As I mentioned, we have all these groups all over the state, not just serving immigrants and refugees, but doing all kinds of other ag service provision. And we're bringing them all together, actually on Tuesday, for a launch of our Beginning Farmer Agricultural Alliance. And so we're going to be playing a coordinating role in the state of bringing together everybody who deals with beginning farmer issues and get them to talk to each other and and develop a referral system and technical assistance web portal and things so people know what all the different opportunities are in the state. Because right now people get pointed around and referred out to many different people and aren't really clear what's going on. So that's our role with that. So any questions about the big overview before I dive into the details? Yes.
Can you just say something about, at the beginning you said you kind of you opened it up more to general public and now you're trying to move back to a more diverse audience. Mm-hmm. Is that just in terms of your outreach, or how are you trying to kind of shift again?
Yeah, what ended up happening was as we opened it up, it stayed pretty diverse for a while, and then as I guess quite frankly, the resources weren't going toward outreach as much because it was so easy with all the internet and social media things to be sending out blasts about our programs, and things were filling up because the demand was there. And so, you know, we'd get a couple, like 1 or 2 or 3 people from diverse backgrounds in the classes, and so it was like, huh. And then as it started trending more and more white, it was like, oh, whoops, we got to, you know, think about like what really is our mission here is to help everyone. And obviously many people from diverse backgrounds are not getting our emails and learning about what we're doing. So we need to go back boots on the ground and do more community-based outreach as we used to do. So I think the whole social media and internet connection world made it too easy to, you know, have more demand than we needed, and so, but it wasn't exactly the mix of people that we were hoping would be attracted to what we had to offer. So,
Yes, yeah, I'm curious. I want to know why you call it Sustainable Farming Project.
Why?
Yeah, see on the corner there, on left corner?
Yep, that's our name. Well, he was laughing because we've been saying for 12 years now we want to change our name to something more like nice soundbite. But we are a sustainable farming project. We teach organic growing practices. We want to sustain the land, the business, and the community with agriculture. And the new entry piece is because new immigrants to the country, new people getting into agriculture, new growers in the landscape. I mean, that's kind of the genesis of the name. But it's a terrible acronym, NESFP, which we used for many years, and now we're going back to new entry. It's not just new entry, and that's what we're calling it. But
Thank you.
Do any of your growers use other mobile livestock slaughtering facilities, or is it mostly just poultry?
it's just poultry. We do have 2 USDA red meat processing plants in the state that are pretty accessible. I mean, we're a small state; you can drive across the entire state in 2 hours. So with 2 plants, kind of, you know, an hour apart. Although the southeastern mass producers, New York and cod, they're always complaining because they don't have anything down there, and they have to drive maybe 2 hours to haul their animals. So those folks from the Midwest and the West are probably laughing at a 2-hour drive, but in New England, that's a long distance.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, you are a grower certified organic, or they're in transition?
No, none of our farmers are.
Repeat the question so
Yes,
everybody can
sorry.
hear that.
Yes, if we're certified organic, and no, we're not. We've struggled with that many times. Like, do we force the farmers to be certified organic? We have the only push-pull that we have with that. It is if they're on our incubator farm sites, they have to use organic production practices. They get 1 warning if we catch them with something, and then they're kicked out. If they're spraying or using any synthetics that we don't approve of. We do provide all the pesticides and things for them as part of our organic pesticide complement, because some of them are so expensive it doesn't make sense for someone on a quarter acre to buy a whole quart of something for $800 when they're going to use maybe a teaspoon of it over a season. So we do have a warehouse of Gordon Palmer approved products that they may need to use, and as part of our technical assistance that happens. We're not super strict about requiring everybody to order certified organic seeds because many of the ethnic varieties aren't available in that respect anyway. We do ask that they use organic potting mix to grow their transplants, and that they only use organic-based fertilizers and things. So it's more for our customer base when we're doing a combined CSA and they want organic product. That's been our leverage with the farmers. Like if they want to sell into the CSA, they have to be producing under organic standards. So that's really where it comes from. But we haven't gone through all the record keeping, and because farmers make mistakes, we don't want to jeopardize the certification process if somebody screws up and then we have to wait another 3 years, or we're not out there 24/7 to be monitoring it either. Yes.
Is the mobile poultry unit USDA certified?
No, state inspected.
State.
The new enclosed one, we're having some meetings this winter with a USDA FSIS inspector to see if the enclosed unit could be used for USDA inspection purposes. And then we're also thinking about establishing a docking station for it where it could be centrally located a day a week and people could bring their birds there to do other USDA inspection, but that would be another big capital project to build a docking station, so we'll see if we get there. A couple more questions and I'm going to move on. Yep.
Can you speak a little bit more about how you pair up your clients with farms that need workers? Just about the process or transportation or interpretation issues?
Yeah, well, when we did more of the pairing work, we were working with the Mass Office of Refugees and Immigrants who had a grant, and they had some funding from JARC. It's called Job Access Ready Commute Program. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but so they had some transportation funding, and we did the employment directory, and then they were working to recruit clients from Boston area who didn't have transportation to then connect them with jobs on farms outside of the city. That was the most hands-on we've ever gotten with it, and then when that funding ended, that ended a little bit. But now we just do the directory, we distribute it, we mail it out to career centers, and it's available at any of our outreach events and in our office, so if people are interested, it's really a self-serve directory. So we basically tell people it's your responsibility to look up the farms and go do an interview, make sure it's a place you feel comfortable working, and have a conversation with the farm owner, because we can't go out and verify that they're all good working places for people either, and we don't profess to know whether someone's going to treat you well or not, so we put the onus on that person. Okay, someone over here had one more question?
I was going to ask you about other tool landing systems and seed storage or pesticide, so the pesticide library thing and application equipment. I can ask you later.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about incubator farms, so I'll get there. One last question. Okay.
The enclosed processing, is it feasible? How much it costs you to put it on, and if someone, a grower want to start one, is it feasible for an individual grower?
To start what?
The enclosed processing.
Oh, the enclosed. The enclosed mobile unit with walls cost about $100,000 to build. It was pretty expensive, and our challenge right now, it's a long story, but it was supposed to be constructed to be pulled with a standard pickup truck. Our project owns a Ford F-250, and unfortunately with the equipment we chose and the way that the fabricator designed it, and then the power requirements of the equipment, made it to be that it was going to have a really super heavy duty plug, so we had to put an onboard generator on it, and then the whole thing got really unwieldy, and now it can only be pulled with a dual rear wheeled heavy duty tow truck, which we don't own. So this summer the only way it moved was with a tow company. So that's why we're also looking at the docking station and putting in a grant to hopefully get a pickup truck so we can actually make the service mobile again. But this is kind of becoming a white elephant for us in a way. It was really great that we did this for the state, but now we're continually having to manage a piece of infrastructure that's very expensive and build demand for it in the marketplace as well. And more producers, because we've streamlined this regulatory process, more producers are now building very simplified on-farm processing facilities and getting licensed through the process we developed, which is a great outcome, but it is reducing the demand for the mobile service. So we're kind of playing with the business viability of that right now. Okay, great. So, farmer training programs. Going a little deeper. So, just to give a little context of sort of how we started our farm business planning course, as Hugh mentioned, the whole project was started on a shoestring. We worked a lot with Extension when we first started. We were paying them through our grants to work with us because that was the only other way they could be free. A workshop that we did that were all-day courses, and we brought in all the Extension people and other SA folks and everybody, and we just did these talking head lectures and translated them into Cambodian, Khmer and Mon, and that was kind of our training program. So then when we were doing our strategic planning process, we were really looking around for other models. We went and visited ALBA. They generously shared with us their training curriculum. So when we first started doing our farm business planning course, we basically took their outline and then figured out what made sense for our context and developed an 18-week farm business planning course. So 18 sessions, because most of our clients have jobs of all shifts, you know, first, second, and third shifts. The only time we could get everybody together was Sunday afternoons. So it was very difficult getting guest speakers to come in and talk on a Sunday afternoon and finding a space where people could get access to it. So the first year we did the class, 18 weeks, every Sunday afternoon for 3.5 hours in 4 languages. So we did it in Malay, Khmer, Spanish, and English. And it was great, we got through it, but it was really, really hard, as you all know. It was like trying to get the information out there, stopping for translation. Somebody had a question, translate the question, you know, back to the group, and then everybody else had to translate the answer back, and then that would generate more questions. It was like we could hardly cover a lot of what we wanted to accomplish. So we got through it. One of the great things that really launched our business planning course and the relationships with all of our different constituencies, because the Hmong were living over in Fitchburg, which was 45 minutes away. The Cambodians and Africans were living more in the Lowell area. It brought them all together in one classroom and to interact with each other. And when we carried that on to the fields and did our field-based training that summer, we rotated them all around to the different farms. And that was really awesome cross-cultural sharing, to see each other's fields, to see each other's, how they planted their, you know, rows in the field, what varieties they were using. There's a lot of seed swapping. How do I store my taro over the winter? So that was a great outcome of bringing everybody together. But we did make the hard decision after that to go to an English-only farm business planning course, because we just wanted to be able to cover material, and we wanted to be able to get enough across and have that interaction in the classroom with people who could communicate to one another. So that did certainly radically change who was coming the next year. So it's funny, the next year we had all African males in the class who spoke fluent English. And that was who showed up and who we reached. And then we had some more mixed, next couple of years we had folks, again from the Cambodian community and other, you know, Vietnamese and other folks who had some level of English literacy who came to the classes, and then it's just been varying ever since. But that was a hard choice that we made, and we've stuck to it. But the way that our classes go is we do a first filter, which we call Explore Farming, and that really brings people in. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. And then they come through our farm business planning course, and then we, over time, changed from 18-week course. It was just kind of long and was trying to cover too much that people really weren't ready for yet. Because until you've had your first season on the farm and dealt with pests and weeds and diseases, you really didn't even know the right questions to ask. So we took a lot of that out of our curriculum and kept it in the field in a very practical way, and then really honed down the business planning to just business planning. So that's kind of been the evolution. And then the incubator farms and technical assistance and the livestock stuff, that's my little swirlies all over. That's all kind of going on in the sideline, but really people come through the program, and that's their gateway with the Explore Farming and business planning course. So Explore Farming, we developed based on the longer version of Exploring the Small Farm Dream, which is put out by the New England Small Farm Institute. And I put the little weeding thing here. This is kind of our weed out place, as I mentioned before. It's a time where we just kind of do a 3-hour free introductory session on a rolling basis as soon as we have enough people who are interested. We talk about the time commitment, the money you're going to have to spend to invest in your farm business, what kind of personal, financial, familial, community support do you have, are you up for this, are you a hard worker, you know, all those filters, and then we talk about our programs and what we have to offer. So if people are not ready to invest money and time and effort into a farm business, we say thanks but no thanks. There are community gardens, there are other opportunities to get involved in this, but this is what we do if you wanted to sign on, come on board. And we try to discourage people if they're really not ready. It's a waste of their time to come to the business planning course. And now that we're charging more, it's a waste of their money too. So our business course is currently 6 weeks in structure, but it's really a 9-week session because we add a lot of add-ons to it. So the first session is really about, and I'll go through these in more detail, but sort of what is business planning, why is it important, what is the concept of planning, why does it matter? So we try to get those rationale pieces in folks' minds. We talk a lot about marketing and market research. How do you pick your enterprises and enterprise budgets? We really make people do enterprise budgets. Even before they really have a lot of the data, it makes them have to go research a lot of that. We help people really develop a production plan, the whole plan, like how much seeds to order, when are they going to go in the greenhouse, when are they going in the ground, when do they get harvested and map it all out on paper. And all their startup costs. We talk about cash flows and all the very boring financial stuff that people really struggle with. That's the class that really makes people crazy. And then now we require people to include a food safety plan in their business plan, and then writing up the narratives, and then we have them come in and do a presentation at the end of the class. So the 9 week, but expanding it, we want to this year break out farm financials into 2 classes because it was really hard, even with more advanced people. This year's class were folks that had been farming for several years and really wanted to put it all together. So they were at a much more advanced level and wanted to dig deeper, and there just wasn't enough time. And then we were working with the Lowell Small Business Assistance Center, who has a microloan program, and in order to be eligible for that, they have their own financial literacy course. So that's an extra couple sessions someone could go to. And if someone's really interested in livestock, we do have a separate livestock session. So this can kind of blossom into more sessions than it is originally advertised for, depending on what people want to do.
Jennifer?
Yes?
Did you say that you charge for the course?
We do. So it used to be, and we always charged because our philosophy is if people don't pay, then they're not invested in it. So it used to be, anywhere from $25 to $100 based on a sliding scale. And then we started realizing that this is a pretty valuable thing, and then we kept increasing the upper end of that, and now we charge $400 for the course, and $500 for our online version of the course, but we offer tuition scholarships down to $50. So almost 90% of our attendees are on tuition scholarships. So only the people that are the Anglos with resources are paying the full freight. So anybody else, we don't want financial ability to pay for the class to be a barrier, but people are going to have to pay a minimum of $50. For 9 weeks of intensive training and as much technical assistance you want, it's a pretty good deal.
How many hours in 9 weeks?
It's a 3-hour, once-a-week class. Yeah. And then people can sign up for technical assistance.
How many people you have going through kind of normally?
So we do 2 cycles a year of both the in-class session and the online, and the online we just started in force this year, and that's been pretty small and it's expensive. But the regular person class, we've had, our cap is between 22 and 25 people, because that's what we find is as much as we can handle. So potentially up to 50 people a year coming for that. So, yeah.
What is your format usually? I mean, are you doing like PowerPoint with heavy pictures, like in activities, or?
Yeah, a little bit of both. We have our teacher manual and a student manual, so they get the student manual with all the worksheets and everything on it builds, so they get a handout session every week. We have PowerPoints, we have videos, we do in-class exercises. It's pretty adult learning centered, but trying to address people's different learning styles. But this has really evolved over the years into not a very low literacy kind of business plan course. I have to say that caveat that it's pretty fast-paced now with English-speaking folks, and we do have had some folks that have struggled with English in the class, and so they get a lot of extra time outside of class to make sure we work with them one-on-one to make sure that they're getting the help that they need so that they can succeed. So it's very time-intensive, but this is a big part of our program, so we spend the time there when we need to. Yes?
I noticed that on your website you have a lot of your PDF resources posted, but the Exploring Your Small Farm Dreams is not, and probably a handful of the business planning materials are not. Are those things that you'd be willing to make available? And if so, how could we get them?
Yeah, the the Small Farm Dream Guide has been sitting in my inbox for 9 months that I haven't given a final review for because it's low on my.
Would you be willing to share a draft?
Yes. Yeah. If you want the draft, I'm happy to send it out, and people can tell me what they would like to see in it or changed, and we can edit it at once. That would be awesome.
Put your email so we can send you a reminder.
Yep. So I'm just going to try to get through this, and then we can ask more questions because I realize I'm blabbing too much. But we basically start with what is a business plan, why is it important, and there's a million kinds of business plans, structures people can use, and we just go over the basics of that. And then we spend a whole session on marketing and sales and really how to do market research, the types of markets that are available to people, and we add a field trip to that component outside of class on a Saturday. And we take people to a wholesaler and a farmer's market. And we always go to a big wholesale buyer and talk to the produce buyer because a lot of people come into the class thinking they're going to sell to grocery stores. And we want to quickly eliminate that pipe dream for people in their first year because, you know, the volume, the quality, the consistency, all of that, unless people are coming with significant experience, is probably going to be a hurdle their first season, so they shouldn't necessarily plan on that. We're not discouraging it, but just want to give people a reality check of what selling into those kind of markets in our area require. And then show them farmers markets and get them out there. Looking at prices, learning how to do pricing research, talk to the produce buyers, do you see what they sell on the shelf, what are they getting in the back end, those kinds of questions. And that's how we do our own market research for our CSAs. We actually go scout farmers markets and grocery stores and do averages to make sure we're benchmarking what we're seeing. We do talk a lot about enterprise selection budgets because a lot of people come in and they're like, well, I don't even know what I should be growing. Not so necessarily for some of our diverse audiences who want to grow their culturally appropriate crops and they know what they want to grow, but for other folks who are thinking about this, they're like, well, I'm not really sure. So we talk a lot about enterprise selection and doing an enterprise budget and those worksheets. And, you know, how much can you expect to make if you know your market price? What are all your expenses and supplies going to be? And what could your bottom line be, depending on how much you can grow and how much you can sell? We talk a lot about crop cultures, animal husbandry, plant families, in relation to enterprise selection and all of that. And then we help people get it on paper, actually doing their crop production plan, either for livestock or plants. And again, this is Lamine and his, he actually did this and had it printed up for his final business plan presentation of what's going to be in the greenhouse trays when, what's going to be in the field when is he going to be harvesting it. So it gets people thinking, and especially if they're signing up for our CSA, they are committing to deliver X number of crops on a certain day, so they better have this drilled down, and then we follow up with them in the field and make sure they're following it. So there's motivation for them, there's money on the other side, so kind of getting to the point of like, how do you get people to understand the importance of it and the record keeping and the concept planning is it's like there's going to be money coming out the other side if they develop the plan and put it into practice. Because it's not just like throwing the seeds out there and then see what you have and going to market. It's like we want it on this day and this many. So that's how we back that up.
In your incubator farm program, how do you enforce that?
We're doing field scouting every week. So we make sure that they have made enough space in their fields, that they've put the seeds in the ground or the plants in the ground, and that they're coming along with their plan.
Do you ever have a time like when they committed to do something and they don't plant on time?
Oh yeah.
Did you buy from somebody else, or what do you do?
Yeah, I mean we have 30-some growers, so if somebody screws up and fails, we have somebody else who's probably in the wings, and they get the sale. So yeah, we try to. I mean, we help people proactively to make sure that doesn't really happen so much. People are, you know, we don't do so much committing with crops that someone's first year to kind of feel them out and see how well of a grower they are. But if they succeed their first year, they get it, and they get the training that they need so that they can do that. So we kind of talk about it, again, write it all out, starting from the beginning. Then we get into the farm financials, and this is where it gets complicated, and yes, dark spreadsheets and things, but we give the concepts, and then really talk people through this. And this is really where people want to know how much money are they going to spend, how many seeds to order, stakes, twine, fertilizer, black plastic mulch, land rental prep, all that good stuff. We do bring in people to give them an understanding of why the business plan is important if they want financing. It's our FSA guide. Talked about the food safety plan. One other thing we did this year was we built the Leopold Center small-scale GAP certifiable wash station to have a model for folks since people are graduating off the farms. So we took their design online and built it for $1,000. That's what they said. It cost us a little bit more because we had to buy some tools and stuff. But
where did you get that?
It's on the Leopold Center. So it's pretty cool.
We have a gap for a wash station that meets.
Yeah, that's what this is. Yep, so we built it. And we have the plans, we have how much, our budget, what we spent, how much time, and what we would do differently if we were building it again. So if anybody wants that, I'm happy to share. Then we put it all together. We do a farmer panel, final presentations, give people feedback, and we have a rubric. We read everybody's business plans, and we rate it, and basically say, would this be eligible for the financing or not? Here's where you can improve it. And then we have an online course, which if I had more time, we could go online and sort of look at the components of that. But there's a lot of videos, moving spreadsheets with voiceovers. So we're like talking people through how to do it, and our full course is online as well. I'll move through that. Our staffing, basically we have one full-time person who teaches our entire business planning course and runs our incubator farms. And that's due to funding. We used to have a separate farm manager, but we keep splitting our positions in a million different ways, but now we have somebody who does the business planning courses and the technical assistance and incubator, manages the incubator farms. And we have, like I said, a whole cohort of Tufts graduate students for interns. We hire a full-time intern during the summer. We have a teaching assistant during the classes through the season so that we have somebody else helping people with technical assistance. Then we do our practical skills trainings on the farm. We have 12 sessions. They're 3 hours and in the field on a Wednesday or Thursday evening. They're free to our farm business planning course graduates, $15 for the public, and we cover a whole variety, soup to nuts, of all the practical skills people need, and we time it so that they're learning the skills before they actually need to put it into practice. And then just quickly, I'll try to go through our incubator farms. Basically, they provide people with land. We have all the infrastructure on site for people to use to get started right away, a lot of technical assistance, and it connects them with other people who are getting started as well. This is our what we have going on and how we've evolved. Some of our original incubator farms, we've transitioned to independent sites for different reasons. The Flats Mentor Farm used to be one, and now it's their own program, but we still have Smith Farm, it's about 5 acres in production. Richardson's Dairy, about 6 acres in production. We were over in the Worcester area where Ashley's group is now, then we left. And then now, the last couple of years, we're on another 4-acre field. And the great thing about our location is they're all within a 3-mile driving distance from one another, so we can get to the 3 sites. The downside of that is we have 3 irrigation systems that we had to pay for and install and manage. We have 3 hoop houses we have to keep snow load off of. We have 3 rototillers that need to be maintained. And all the infrastructure, each farm is a farm, and we had to build all that infrastructure on each farm. We can drive our tractors, 2 tractors around all the sites, but there's where the other programs within the state are located. So ours are clustered up there. I don't have time, running out of time, to just talk about how we found the land, but we can talk about that later. Confronting stereotypes and racism is a big issue for us. We're in very suburban, wealthy neighborhoods, and we're bringing those people out to the farm, so that certainly has been an issue over time. These are the things our sites need when we're looking for additional sites. I mean, those are all the things you got to have available. Maybe not a heated greenhouse, but a way to do all of that. We do have a lease with the lands that we lease for our incubator sites, and then we have a lease with the farmers that outlines all the expectations. These are the requirements for them to get a land assignment, and I'll make this PowerPoint available so you can read through it. And we require them to get their own insurance when they come onto our incubator sites, which is a big deal. The year we did that, a couple people didn't come back because they either couldn't get insurance, didn't want to get insurance, or couldn't afford it, in addition to what else we charge. But with our marketing and selling and our landowner issues, and we want to be able to build people towards self-sufficiency, so we need to get insurance eventually. We required it. Some other things, we have a whole way we assign land for people, very complicated. These were our fees this year that we charge. Most people start on all people start on a 1/4 of an acre, so the 615 acres sounds like a lot, but divide that by 4, it's not that much. And we have a whole farm manual that people have to go through, which is on our website. They sign an agreement with us. Managing expectations and the whole tragedy of the commons on shared sites is a big issue. People don't act like it's their own. But we always start from the very beginning with the end in mind. People know they only have 3 years to use the land on our site, so we start the planning process of transitioning them in year 1. Okay, sorry, this is how much it costs us. It's subsidized, technical assistance, unlimited, it's as much as people need. We go out and scout the fields every week, connect them. We have a lot of other partners, and one of the things that we do, as you said, we go around and make sure they're following their crop planting sheets, and we do a field report for everybody. So if they're not there when we're scouting their fields, we leave this in their community space for them to pick up, and they can schedule follow-up assistance. We aggregate that back at home. We're excited about Gary's next presentation because we want to move everything to Salesforce. But until then, we do these very cumbersome Excel sheets where we report on and track farmer progress that way. We continue to provide technical assistance to offsite growers, and I'm done. Okay. So,